My next guest on Siraaj Says is a good friend and a very talented musician. I've been fortunate to watch him perform in different venues in Cape Town and a few venues in Johannesburg. And he's one of the few musicians when I sit and watch him, I have that stupid grin on my face that I can't get rid of just being in awe of what he does with his guitars. And I've even had situations where I watched him perform and I had goosebumps. I'm just totally in awe with this man's talent, and I'm so happy that I'm able to have him as a guest on my show. For those who don't know you, who's watching this video now, just give them a brief history with your relationship to music and more especially your relationship with guitars.
Yeah, well, guitars, I was inspired by Sadiq Khan. He's a maestro, Sadiq Khan in Cape Town. He played flamenco and he played Spanish tunes. And one of the things that I come from also a religious background, so I gave him Islamic classes, and he says, look, you give me Islamic classes, I give you guitar classes.
Wow.
Other than my love for music in the past, my grandparents played mandolin and a few other things. My father loved singing. I got drawn into, like many other Cape Townians, got excited about the sound of flamenco, the sound of the gypsies, the sound of the singing of the gypsies, and the actual harmonic minors, the scale of flamenco, which that inspired me, and I just wanted to play it. And if he played, when Sadiq played, I used to go and give him classes, and then he'll be playing, afterwards, and like, oh, okay,
So after reciting Quran or Surah,
yes, then I get excited about
guitars
listening to it.
What a combination.
Yeah, so that's how I started really getting into loving it.
I'm always amazed when I see you perform and you move from one guitar to the next guitar. How many guitars do you have?
And nowadays, I've sold most of them. When I immigrated, my background is global business, so I moved around from country to country. Strangely, I remember when I set up in the Middle East. Office and home and migrated to the Middle East for about 5 years. I traveled between Cape Town and Saudi Arabia and Dubai quite a bit. And I bought a guitar. Halfway station was Dubai. I bought a guitar, which is that one there. And I left it with my friend Donovan Rousseau at his house. I said, whenever I'm traveling and I'm coming to Dubai, I need you to keep me a guitar. And yeah, so I bought in Cape Town. I had a flamenco guitar. I had a performing Yamaha guitar. I've got my Ramirez, the one that I perform with still, Jose Ramirez. And I sold a lot of them. So yeah, I've only now got my three guitars. I've got the other one downstairs. Then I've got my wedding present from my wife, which is a small guitar with all my friends' signatures. So currently I've got about 6 guitars in my home. But I probably had about 10. I had a oud when I stayed in Camsberg. I had an oud, I had a whatever, probably about 10. I don't know, can't remember. As an entertainer, I've stayed away from the classic flamenco. I performed mostly because I am firstly a singer, then I am a guitarist. I started off interested in flamenco, but I was pushed into becoming, I was pushed into singing first because I wasn't a good guitarist. And I ended up for many years being the lead singer of Al Flamencos and a few Los Gitanos, Los Malitos, and quite a few other bands. So I was really a singer. As a singer, I worked with the Zane Adams, the Tully Petersons, and all of them. And Zane Adams especially took me under his wing. We had a good, I looked up to him. I always, Zane was my idol in terms of singing and that type of thing. So I was fortunate. He took me on his wing and he says, look, you're still green. Let me show you the ropes and how to sing. And he used to come to our house, push your hands like this and get that notes out of your, all of those things. So my interest then shifted from actual guitar to becoming a singer and becoming a commercial singer, singing gypsy kings.
I remember in the Galaxy, Sparta, Flamingos,
Space Odyssey, all of those places. Yeah, I was still a green musician, if I want to call myself that. A lot of the jazz musicians at that time, we used to come in as Al Flamencos, playing at the Galaxy especially, and then we were just booked for about 1 set or 2 sets, and then you had these musicians playing till 3 in the morning. We just came in, did our thing and out because we were fortunate. It was a new sound. It was Gypsy Kings hits. We got probably financially paid a lot more than some other musicians because we sort of the new kids, a new sound on the block and that. So there was that sort of thing. The main thing is I was the lead singer. I was thrown into a band that was making a name for themselves. The guitar took the back step. I pushed it in the back because now I don't have time to actually practice and it needs 2 hours a day to actually really work with it. And those rhythms, the technique, it comes after months and months.
Your nails, how's your nails now?
Yeah, I've still got the long nails. Yeah. So that's the flamenco background. And then later on, I started really spending a lot of time with serious flamenco, with the likes of Farid Maiman, Bini. These are classical flamenco performers.
Who was that musician that became a band member with Nana Muscuri, the Greek singer? Wasn't there Cape Town?
Yusuf Ali, yeah. Yusuf Ali, they were with the Golden Strings. There was quite a few Spanish influenced guitarists such as Yusuf Ali that used a lot of flamenco runs. They were not classical flamenco players really, but they come from a very strong Spanish influenced gypsy sound that they loved, and like he did well for himself with Nana Muscuri, and he played classical guitar. Nifa van der Schaaf was trained in Spain, but he was a classical guitar specialist, even though he played great Spanish tunes and folk songs. He wasn't really a trained flamenco guitarist. The father of flamenco for us in Cape Town probably will be Pablo Navarro, of which I was one of my teachers.
what I find fascinating is that I know that within our community, the Cape Malay, the Muslim community, and even broader in the sense of there's a big culture of musicians. We've got musicians for the Klopser, we've got musicians that play in the Cape Malay band. So
I think to answer your question, I think the influence of the Arabs, the harmonic minors, the scale that is used when they're singing and playing, and the rhythm, and I'll get to the rhythm now, but that just the musical side of it is attracted to our DNA, to our structure, the thing that makes us, our biorhythm. If you take a flamenco singer, and if I can just use my guitar, I mean, it's all Arabic, isn't it? So that's Arabic and that's flamenco. So why our Cape Townian, myself, and everybody else, even our audiences, if they are Cape Malay, they can relate. The ears just switch on.
it plays to the heartstrings very quickly. You go, ooh, what's that?
Yeah, because the scale we use, which is the Arabic scale. So that's what came to Spain, and of course, the youth they picked up to that very quickly, and the rhythm to that, and that I think was the attraction. When you play it, we go into that mode of okay, this makes me relax. Music has got a big religious controversy in Cape Town, especially where it's a grey area. The ulama and the scholars will say, look, it's a grey area where we're not going to give a fatwa straight out, because it's going to happen at the wedding and it's going to happen there and this and that and that and that. So the flamenco sound was in the middle that our cultural forefathers could still listen to that rather than a rock guitar at their wedding.
It's a little compromise. It's the little compromise they could deal with. Because it's close to the salawat and it's close to
So it was, it was a middle road of no, this is still acceptable, but I can't accept that. No, that's demon. That's not good music, So it's got elements like that. But I think the most important thing is music is all about, if you can't listen to it, you're not gonna take your time to listen to it. If it's soothing to the ear, if it makes you happy, if it makes you calm, takes your sadness, relate to your sadness, you're attracted to it. Flamenco and Spanish tunes and the harmonic minor scales worked for us in Cape Town because it's got the Arab sound. We are influenced by that sound and we could relate to it. The rhythm, on the other hand, has got a lot deeper meaning because our music in Cape Town has got, it goes back more than 400 years in terms of where the slaves came from, Java and Indonesia and all of that. So the rhythm, rumba, especially rumba, relates very closely to the guma, and it relates to some of the other Latin rhythms as well, because it counts the same 1, 2, and 3, and 4. The emphasis, for example, is the same. Okay, so if I just take a rumba, for example, that's the rhythm, and I'm closing the string, so I'm just giving you the rumba. It's very close to a guma. Now, if I take that, yeah, now that's a rumba. So the point I'm making is that the rumba, the Gypsy Kings, and all of that sound is on the back of what has worked for us for 100 years. So when the slaves came from Indonesia and wherever else they came from, yeah, you wanted to say
No, because that was what I was going to ask now, is that so that rhythm, I remember you explaining to me, you explained this a couple of times to me, and still fascinates me, blows my mind.
So what they had on the ships as the slaves came from wherever they were coming from, mostly from the Far East, when they came to Africa 400 years ago, they had the drums, and they had the hammer. I think that's the hammer that they used. So when they were rowing, they were hitting so if they go goof, to, and the count was 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And the drums that influenced that was go, go, gong, 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 gong. And that was the rhythm that we brought 400 years. Different names, whatever you want to call it, but it basically, that rhythm brought the songs 400 years. Oh, ya salam, bamboleo, bambolea. So we just speed it up, yeah. But I'm not. Bamboleo is not Catonian. I'm just saying.
Yeah, just how
it relates back to that. But if I take that, and this is the interesting part, Siraj, is that our forefathers used this culture to bring people together. That's I think the template that is very significant for me, studying sort of where, and also this was very interesting to Talib. When we sat for hours in the studio and working on things, and this album that we worked on, Tribute, which yeah, at that time when he released this, and we worked on it for quite some time, a lot of the rhythms we used there was influenced also by what the slaves brought, of the guma, slow down, and that type of thing. But the template that I want to just latch onto is the template of the religious aspects of Al Khadat, the Maulud, the all of that, all thrown into this culture, had the happiness part of the wedding, the part of let us get the teams, and it could have been unconscious. It was done not consciously, maybe. It was just happened because that's the only rhythm that they could relate to. So they did the saman.
And just for the people who don't know, understand these terminologies, the saman would be normally part of
a dhikr, which is a religious. It's a
practice.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it up. Yes.
And the rhythm, when we have Sufi gatherings, and you would do this recitation, and it would always build up to that rhythm, that saman.
It is rhythmically influenced, so you'll start with saman. Let's take saman, or let's take ratib first. Ratib is where they use the swords and knives and stuff, where they don't cut themselves. But the main underlining factor is the drums and the rhythm. And what's the rhythm they use? Gong gong, gong gong, gong. So the rhythm that they used was So they use that rhythm, and the same rhythm they used when they did Saman, which is no music, but it's like they just rhythmically move like la, la, ha, uh, 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 and some of them use the rabanas and stuff like that, but Ratip and Saman use the same rhythm. When it came to Ruasas and that, the same rhythm, in the and then the Maulud, same rhythm.
What's the Ya Salam?
Salam, or if they were doing like Salam Muhammad. And that's the template I'm talking about. When we take the Khadat, Ratib al-Khadat, which is Yemen influence, I mean, it was as what brought from the middle, a lot of these sounds was from the Arabia influence anyway, from Qasida, which is Arabia, and it was poetic. I mean, Qasida is actually the poets and that came from Arabia to Indonesia, and from Indonesia and Malaysia. Of course, our forefathers brought the rhythm and the musical and the poetry of it.
And obviously the religion, culture, everything.
Everything else, all on like a package deal, but it was more cultural than religion as a start. Yes, there was the Sufi aspect of it, which our forefathers, and Khadat was one of it. To keep the groups together, they did the Khadat. But to keep the youngsters interested, they made it melodic and harmonies. So you'll hear if I'm going to say Subhul Quduzu now, and sorry, I'm just using the way we pronounce it sometimes in Cape Town, not necessarily Arabic, yeah. But we've changed it. We changed the Arabic to suit the music. Okay. You know, Subhul Quduzu, you know, is just to make it musical more than the religious dhikr part of it, which is the template. Again, I'm using the word template because it was a template to get the interest so that they could have more people in the gathering because they are excited, either because they have financial problems and this is going to help them, or this is actually going to be musically an entertainment for them because I'm going to sing that high harmony, he's singing the low harmony, and it still is like that. Well, I'm going to go the Khadat, I'm going to get that part out of it, which is as a kid, I'm enjoying the harmony.
Yeah, no, you're just bringing back a memory of mine, and silly memory, which I always tell people. You know, it's like I grew up in my father's very Sufi, so dhikr was a big thing. My brother I still love dhikr. I don't go that much anymore. But the one day I'll never forget. I mean, I was in primary school and I was taught, I went to EC Primary in Grassy Park and they taught us a hymn, Fishing for Jesus. Fishing for Jesus, fishing for Jesus. And when they were doing the dhikr and they were in the samana, you know, going there and I'll never forget that I was standing there going, oh, okay, yeah, the rhythm works. I mean, and I don't think I had that language to say rhythm and that, but I was standing there going, fishing for Jesus, fishing, while they became the My father looked at me and he was like, I'm just going there, fishing. Jesus, I'll never forget. And I always, like, my love for music, I got from, I can understand why I love music the way I do, because it's from the dhikr, from the khadat, from, the Cape Malay, more than the klopse, all those little influences, so the hints, and now I'm also listening to, and remember in my opening, when I said, I used to sit with goosebumps listening to you play music. I kind of almost now understand why I had that much of an effect, because it spoke to me in so many ways other than just the ordinary experience, a sensory experience of ooh, they're playing nice music. You know,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
kind of
It's the DNA sitting there. The biorhythm is there. It relates. It switches. It puts you in a state of relaxation. It puts you in a state of hypnotic state of okay, I'm now relaxed. I'm not stressing. You know, and I think that's maybe the part, like you're saying. That's how you felt, and I think this is over 400 years that how it became. Now we can sense making comes to the fore now, where we can break it up, unpack it, and relate back to it. That's the recipe, and maybe we can use that recipe, and even thrown further. I mean, the history of the guma and the minstrels and the nachtroepe. I mean, that's a story of its own, but it's on the same vehicle. It's in the same. It comes from the same source. Guma comes from what we're talking about. Slow down, fast, whatever. They're going to take. So the minstrels and the coons that came from America to show off, to entertain these bosses and colonialists, whatever the thing is, we latched onto it, and that's why we still do it today. The crooners, we're the best followers. We followed them when they came in the 700s. The coons. And the whites putting blacks on their
blackface, yeah,
faces.
blackface.
They wanted to look like raccoons and whatever it might be. But the point is, the rhythms we used was a combination of those Caribbean styled rhythms, and this what we are doing, the beats of the slavery combined. That's why it's so similar to Latin rhythms. The guma drum, which is the drum, not the rhythm, the guma was influenced by that and our history of coming from Asia, and then the guma of the street, like singing any hit song that you could think of, just put a guma to it and you sing it, and that's where the clubs came. That. But we want to do it a love song. Okay, just slow it down. Now we're doing it like back to what we know best. Okay, speed it up. Salam alaikum umi, salam alaikum kuya. Right? Was learn it up speed, but if I slow it down, it's actually going to get back to
Yeah.
and that's where the Netherlands then took it back as a back step and saying, okay, ons gaat nie nou coons we see, ons gaat nie minstrels we see. We're going to try and get the serious part of doing the Netherlands songs and take that, So, but the point I'm trying to make is they all actually come from the same source and the same template. I like the word template.
The template that came from Java, Indonesia, via this
Arabia, India,
Arabia,
yeah.
With the slave ships to the Cape of Good Hope. And then we now find ourselves in 2020, and your family, the Davids, have now settled in New Zealand. And let me just give me a second. I'm getting hot here.
Okay, all right. I hope it's me.
Well, and the funny part about you settling in New Zealand is that for those people who don't know watching this, we Cape Colours are traditionally New Zealand's rugby supporters because
Since 1976, I think, or even before that.
Actually,
Yes.
I was only born in 1972, so I mean, all I knew growing up is that we were proud supporters of New Zealand, and whenever they played South Africa, and obviously besides when the sanctions happened, when the new South Africa happened, we were still big New Zealand supporters. The history books will tell you that the biggest New Zealand support the New Zealand team touring South Africa would get the biggest support in the Cape from the coloured community in Cape Town. That's why they love being there. Sonny Bill Williams will tell you a lot of stories about why they love it over there. And it's because of how they were the black rugby players that we could support from those days of apartheid, and we haven't lost that love. it's always a big thing for me when South Africa plays New Zealand. It's like, who do I really support? And coming back, as using your words, coming back to Auckland, New Zealand, you then brought a tradition.
Yeah, that journey's been here for over whatever years, 20 odd years. I think there was quite a few. Yeah, it's been here. It's been here. There's been a few entertainers here. The Dukes are one of them. During the World Cup, they were prominent in terms of doing Kropse stuff. They had the Gumas, and it goes back, there was the Cape Malays kept the culture alive in their bits here and there and there. So the culture has been around. My dad, he's always been the oldest out of most of the Cape Townians. He kept the culture quite alive with breitslichis at the weddings here and there, and the dhikrs and the khaddats and mauluds and that type of stuff. They've always kept that alive. Yeah. Now recently, what we've done, we've actually created this Cape Malay cultural group, which is now we're working towards a more structured group, social group, and also the future for our kids. So it's administered. Also, the New Zealand government, with their governance and all of that, will probably become the custodians and making sure that it runs according to what the trust would want it to run. But it's for the preservations and to preserve our culture coming from 400 years, and it's now made a full circle. It's coming now to New Zealand. That's the vision of what we want to do, and also for our youth to bring that same rhythms. That's what we're doing now. We're probably gonna showcase some documented stuff onto the cultural shock that's happening in Cape Town. I think this month, Lukman and partners, they have a big online showcase of about 10 or 15 different Cape Malay and Kropse groups competing against each other. I think it's called the Cape Cultural Show, and we will also have a song that goes the full journey, which is actually quite a good relevance to our discussion now. The song is something that we're showcasing now, the Aotearoa, which is in Maori, New Zealand, song, which is the anthem, and one of the superstars, the biggest Maori superstar in New Zealand history, Stan Walker. He wrote a song, and we've made it Cape Townian, like sort of put the ratip into it and put a bit of kuma here and there, and the harmonies that we are so well known in, the khaddats and all of that. I'm not going to play you anything because I've got some of the stuff here, but yeah, that's going to give you reason to watch the show.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and your passion with us. And if people want to follow you on social media, are you big on social media? If they want to hear your music, how would they be able to?
Yeah. Social media, yes, I'm Facebooking Ismail Davids, of course. Website ismaildavids.com. On social media, I've got my own group page as well, which is the Ismail Davids music page. I've got my Ismail Davids business page as well. so yeah.
The music page obviously would have you with a guitar in your hand.
That's the guitar part, yeah. The business page is a bit more structured with my white shirts on.
So that's the cue for the people. If it's the white shirt, the color shirt, that's the one.
The color shirt is the musical thing, yeah.